Varda, and there's somebody I can't read here. Then there's Einat, and there's Elisheva, there's Netta, and somebody I don't know, which has only a Hebrew name. Is it Einat? No, it's somebody more than just Einat. Wonderful way to start the morning. Well, you were not here yesterday, so I'm not sure. It's quite hard, it's quite it's quite it's quite demanding, this bodhicitta thing. But I think it's really worthwhile because that's what it does. So when we have the courage to bear or to look at the suffering of others, even if we can't help, and that is the most difficult thing, isn't it? See suffering of others when we know exactly what to do in order to help them, at least temporarily, it's okay. We feel quite happy actually to help because it's something in a human mind's, we like to help occasionally, maybe not always, but occasionally. And but looking at the suffering of others and keeping the mind open and keeping the heart open is not easy. Because we could look away. We wouldn't have to look at it. And as Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche says, you see suffering, then compassion arises. It's a natural response to it, unless you have perverted ideas like thinking, yeah, they deserve it, let them suffer, or are even happy about it and think like, wow, well done, they're bad guys and all this. That's what we sometimes do. It's negative rejoicing. But in general, we just have compassion arising. And so he says, this is the sore spot in your heart, compassion. You touch it, it hurts. And we need to have the courage to go that. We also need to have the courage to really understand the suffering and to lean into it instead of just, glossing it over. And sometimes what I think is quite sad also, that sometimes I hear or I feel Dharma practitioners, they use these wonderful methods for the gloss. They don't want to see the suffering. They don't want to, again, it's just general that I see that sometimes. And you have to see when you say, for example, something is not going the way you want it to go. Something is, it's painful. And then you hear yourself saying, oh, well, it's all empty. Or, oh, well, karma ripening, like we discussed yesterday a little bit. Or, oh, well, it's all impermanent. All this is wonderful. They're wonderful methods to apply, but they can be applied in the wrong way. Like instead of then looking at what is happening, taking responsibility for what is happening, and then kind of, making some kind of decisions. Okay, so where do I go from here? Not looking in the past. Oh my gosh, what have I done that this is happening to me now? I'm so bad and all this. Not like this, but to really take responsibility, not to run away from it and to stay with it. So then it would be applied in the right way. But very often it's applied in a way of to console ourselves. Oh, yeah, it's empty, and so it's impermanent. His Holiness says if you have the ability to look at the suffering of others with an open heart, then that shows that you have courage. Because you need courage. Because it's very easy to look away, but looking away, we still know that people are kind of, how to say, that the world is a mess. I mean, look at the world at the moment, If you read the news or if you watch the news, it's like so much physical suffering everywhere, so much fear also. At the moment in Switzerland is the fear that all the energy prices are going up. So we already see ourselves probably in front of a winter without heating or something like that. Like already is, oh, what are we going to do? So they might all come to Israel to enjoy the hot weather. I don't know. We'll see. But so it's this constant, the world is, as Leonard Cohen would say, plunged in darkness. And it's true, there is so much suffering. And it can be overwhelming and we don't want to look at it. But if we want to stop the causes for the suffering, we need to look at the suffering. Otherwise, we won't have, otherwise we feel that there's nothing we can do. And then we have to close our eyes and then we're not looking anymore. But again, take it in doses. When you feel that it's getting too much and it's overwhelming, then think about the positive sides also. It's like, I can't repeat it often enough. I don't know how it is with you, but I find Buddhism really, really difficult. It's not a dogma. There is no black and white lines where they say, do this, don't do that, this and that. They give you advice which is sometimes totally contradicting to what, they said 5 minutes before. And so this is why this meditation and awareness is so important, that you start to get to know your own mind and you see your motivation and you understand what's going on. Yeah. And then you have to decide, and you need to be intelligent, not intelligent, knowing a lot of things that you learn, but more this kind of inner watch or this inner intelligence, which we all have, which our mind has. When the mind is calm, then it knows what is right and what is wrong. And it knows also what to do. And then to follow that a little bit instead of just, doing whatever comes up in your mind. But it's good to listen to the teachings. It's good to learn about the things. It's good to think about them. But then after thinking about them, you have to make the decision. Does that appeal to me? Does it seem something, first of all, feasible? Can I do this? Second is, do I want to do this? Do I want to transform my mind in that direction, especially when it comes to bodhicitta? I mean, self-liberation, this is okay. Everybody wants to be free from suffering. But then do I really want to have an open heart to all sentient beings, even if they have harmed me, and especially for those? And by the way, this is not exclusive to Buddhism. I'm sure every religion or spiritual system is teaching these kinds of things. Now don't go, yeah, but only for them. Not, how do we know? Not necessarily. As Jesus was saying, you should love the ones that deserve it the least because they need it the most. That's bodhicitta, right? Bodhicitta, there with bodhicitta, you love everybody, but you make a special effort to open up your heart towards sentient beings that we have a tendency to close our heart. Now, I just said that's bodhicitta. Is it true? Is that bodhicitta? That wasn't to test you, but then I just became aware that what I said was kind of mistaken a bit. It was not totally wrong, but it was mistaken. Why was it mistaken when I said, this attitude of you should love the ones, you should learn to love, because I think he even says we have to learn to love the ones who deserve it the least because they need it the most. Why is that not bodhicitta? Sounds like bodhicitta, doesn't it? Anybody?
Because maybe it's a different, it's for all, also for yourself, wanting not only for the people that suffers more. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Anybody else?
I think for two reasons. First, there isn't any equanimity when you love more the one who you don't, they deserve it. They don't deserve it. That's the first reason. The second reason, it's not only to love, it's to help.
Okay. Okay. Still not the right answer. Sorry.
So I think it's maybe partial. So maybe it's the beginning. So if we have love, so we have love and compassion for everyone, but then we need to take it one more step and actually wish for them to be enlightened, and then another step and decide that we are going to help them become enlightened. So
Exactly.
it's not.
Yeah. Thank you, Tomer. So this is the part that is missing. I need to become enlightened in order to be able to love them. But what makes you think, you know, when Jesus says you should love the ones that you should learn to love the ones that deserve it the least because they need it the most. What makes you think that at the same time he says you shouldn't love the others? What makes you think that?
He didn't say.
Cute, isn't it? It's as if we're saying we can only love a certain amount of people. What are you saying?
I don't think that's what he said.
No?
Because it's easier to love other people, and it's the most difficult is to love somebody who did something very bad, and you cannot find really a compassion inside yourself to do it. And that's why he said, if you get to the situation where you can love somebody who did something, such a horrible thing, you probably will love everybody else anyway.
Yeah, exactly. So this is, you know, don't think that it's not equanimity because he's saying that you should love the ones who are okay. You know, that's what Dina's saying. That's not what it means. You know, whether he said it or not, I don't know, but that's not what it means. It means that it's not good enough only to love the ones that is easy to love. You know, this kind of attached love, the victims, the poor people, the ones that are good to you, and all this. We'll talk about friend and enemy, and you know that we don't have equanimity, but that also these people have we have a reason to love. Okay, I think he says there's another saying there somewhere. It's easy to love the ones that are kind to you. I mean, even pagans can do it. Pagans meaning people who don't have a spiritual practice. You know, it's very easy to love the people that are kind to you. They do what you want them to do. But on the other hand, seems to be easy, isn't it? But sometimes even those are getting on our nerves, and we have moments of where we hate them or where they disturb us. Also, it doesn't mean that if you are able to open up your heart a moment, it doesn't mean that then there will be love all the time. This constantly keeps changing. So we can't do both at the same time, but we can definitely love somebody and then another moment really, they disturb our peace of mind. I don't want to come down to saying hate, but we can see it with affectionate relationships that first they couldn't be separated from each other, and all of a sudden they start to hate each other, isn't it? I mean, this is definitely possible, and this is enlightenment is missing. Yeah, thank you, Orita. I only saw it now. So yeah, so this is our task, is to kind of to become aware what's going on in our mind and what the motivation is, and also to see when you were attached to somebody and all of a sudden you feel that this is changing, to start to question that instead of going with the feeling and thinking, oh, but he or she has changed so much, or they did this and this and this, to really check whether that's logic and reasonable, that you can change your attitude towards that person in such a drastic way. Yeah. So then that would be okay. So we'll do some awareness meditation again. Practice. I prefer to say practice than meditation, because when people hear the word meditation, they get all stiff, and they think, oh, I'm not allowed to think now, and I have to do this and I have to do that. No, you just have to be present. And we have to practice being present. Now we do awareness practice, not awareness meditation. And by the way, the word meditation means practice in Tibetan, and also I think in Sanskrit. I'm not so sure about Sanskrit. I've just heard it somewhere. I keep repeating things. Sometimes I have no clue whether it's true or not. It just sounds kind of reasonable. So it's like bhavana in Sanskrit, I think, means training, means practice. Gom gyap. Don't think I know Tibetan. I just know a few words. means making the mind familiar with something, also means training the mind to do something spontaneously. Okay? Nice. The cat is also doing some awareness. Edouard's cat. Okay. So, but you try to sit in a comfortable way where you are at ease. And also mentally, when you do these kind of practices, mentally it's good to find a spot in your house where you do feel at ease, or where you feel that this is a safe space. Now, again, you know, for the safe space, you can take your Dharma knowledge and you bring in the teachings on impermanence and death, and you go like, what is he saying? There is no safe space anywhere because death can find you anywhere you are. Yes, that is true. But in a way that it's so important for you, you know, when you do awareness practice, to feel at ease. If you can. Now, if you have a neighbor who's playing, you know, who has a small son, there's a friend, a non-friend of mine has a neighbor like this. Her small son is learning to play the trumpet. Okay, so you can just about imagine what that is. And so it's like, yeah, but she can't change house. So then you adjust to it. And then you go like, oh, it could be much worse. Bombs could be falling, or I could be next to a train station or next to a restaurant, you know, like this, because he doesn't play 24 hours a day. So, okay, so you see what I mean, but try to kind of to generate that inner feeling of a safe space. And we can generate that inner feeling of safe space when we again connect to the yearning of being free from suffering and being happy. Because then we're home, because that's our nature. When we connect with our natural goodness, with our natural spaciousness, also very important, always. Nothing is as solid as it looks, not even the body. And for me, just the word spaciousness, spaciousness, something opens up. You can try other words, you know, I'm just giving you things that I experience, and maybe it works for you, maybe it doesn't, then keep listening to other teachers. Find your own methods. This is basically what Buddhism is all about. We find our own medicine, that which also to generate a feeling of safe space, bring friendliness into the practice. Try to see a difference then from before. And when I say now, you know, bring spaciousness into the practice, and especially bring friendliness into the practice. Friendliness and courage means we are willing to be present. We're not threatened, afraid of seeing something that will overwhelm us. And friendliness also means if something arises that seems too big, in a very friendly way, you stop staying there and you go somewhere else. You need to reassure yourself, a little bit like a mom who reassures her child when it has to go to the dentist. Although this is not true. When the mother says it won't hurt, not true. But it's a fact, and it's true when you tell yourself you can stop any moment when it becomes too big, too heavy, too painful. Make a promise to yourself not to force, not to push. So that our kind of more subtle mind is not afraid to let things come up to the surface. Then most of you will notice, because you have a regular practice, that the mind just by itself goes to the breath. You don't need me to tell, now let the mind go to the breath. It does it automatically. That's what means practice is working. It becomes habitual, familiar. So I just will let you for at least 5 minutes to do your own practice, because you're all experienced. It is sometimes very pleasant to be led in the practice, but then you don't really practice. Okay, then when the mind has become quite stable and open, check what's going on. The mind state, as if you would be asking your best friend, how are you? And as a good friend, honestly listening to what your friend is saying. So if you're saying, wow, today I'm really well, we all know it's not going to last, but still we can rejoice. And we open up our heart and think, wow, may all beings be able to experience that mind state of well-being, being at ease, being open. If maybe your mind state is more heavy, frightened, there's some pain, just say to yourself, this also belongs. Not to push it away, not to make you feel better about it. This is we use these methods to be able to stay there and to understand dynamics of these mind states. They're ever changing, they have conditions and so on. So when I say there's something painful and you go, this belongs, and you can even put your hand there. Our motivation is to make it go away. But I don't think that's what it's for. It's more to have the courage to see, to observe, to accept, and then it can transform. That should be the motivation, to understand. To understand that these are just mind states, impermanent, no substance. We have the courage to look and to be with them. That is the healing. Observe what happens when you just say, this belongs. Because what it does, it gives it more space. The more space we give a difficult mind state or a problem, the smaller it becomes, the less overwhelming. Then we can think, I'm not the only one who is experiencing these difficult mind states. Open up our heart. May all beings be free from experiencing these difficult mind states. Confusion, depression, pain, feeling neglected, not being seen, not being appreciated, which is not true anyway. You can always find somebody in your life to appreciate. Maybe not all the time. Sometimes. I'm not the only one experiencing these difficult mind states. May all beings be free. This kind of suffering is the causes of this suffering, which is a grasping at the self-existent I or me, which lies at the root of all suffering. May all beings be free from it. Then again, we touch the yearning of being free from suffering, causes of suffering. We touch the yearning for goodness, for peace. well-being and happiness. Feel it, you experience it. You think, this is my Buddha nature calling me. And this is why I'm practicing. In order to bring it to the surface, in order to clear away the wrong views, which create desire, attachment, aversion, anger, and hatred, and all the other stuff. To clear these clouds away, so I can live my values spontaneously, uninterruptedly, and effortlessly. Then in that state, as a fully awakened being, guide or lead all other sentient beings to that state as well. And then we can ask ourselves, big question. Can I do this without instruction? Without somebody that is inspiring me, like we talked yesterday about the foundation of all good qualities is the kind and venerable Guru. Our source of inspiration, somebody that gives us advice directly, personally. Can I do this without that person? Can I bring my Buddha nature to the surface without any methods, just by sitting as we do now? Would that be enough? No instruction, no methods, no antidote. What do you think? Or would I be doing this if I wouldn't have any companions on this path, like the Sangha? Most probably not. Then out of that understanding comes the wish to take refuge. Understanding that we need a refuge. We need the Buddha as the mentor, the Dharma as the means or the method, and the Sangha as the companions on our path where we share our successes, our failures, problems, our joy. Taking refuge is a joyful state of mind. We know where we want to go. We want to bring that kind of natural goodness to the surface, the natural wisdom that we have, the natural spaciousness. But we also know alone I can't. And having found a mentor, a method, and companion, how can taking refuge not be joyful? So you can say either just the refuge formula as you know it, or again, it's not the word, it's the attitude. Then once the Buddha nature has come to the surface, what do we want to do with it? Just sit and enjoy it? Or let all others that will encounter us benefit from it? With this kind of attitude, then everything becomes very, very meaningful. Then we continue to sit for a few more minutes, noticing the mind state without judging, without grasping at it. We're not calling it good or bad. We just observe, notice, and experience. Okay. So, by the way, I don't want to sell Buddhism to you. If you have another refuge, which kind of has these things, like mentor or somebody that inspires you, a method or methods and companions, that's fine for whatever goal you want to attain. So it depends a little bit on you what you want to attain. So what we will do, because we've been looking at the foundations of all good qualities quite a bit. So now this morning we will take the other very short Lam Rim text, which is called the Three Principal Aspects of the Path, which also show us this whole path, like from the beginning to from the bottom more to the end. And it's like when you know the structure, it's really, really well structured by first identifying, the three principles. Do you know them? Yeah. Can somebody give me these three principles of the path or of the Lam Rim? You can write it in the chat or you can say.
Renunciation, Bodhichitta, and wisdom.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. So I'm sorry to say it's again Tomer who has 100 points. Are you really not knowing it, or are you afraid to say it? What is it? Anyway, so these are the three ones. Renunciation. Renunciation is a word. When you hear the word renunciation, what does it do to you? Does it make you? How does it make you feel? Does it feel like something desirable? That you have to work on your renunciation? How do you feel when you hear that word?
It's a harsh word.
Okay. And it means what for us when we hear the word?
It's a mix between, even even giving up and to renounce has the feeling of giving up.
Mm-hmm.
And well, you know, I can't bear it anymore, so I renounce.
Mm-hmm.
That's the classical meaning. I mean, that's the feeling that's associated to it. On, for me at least, on the basic level, without going into Buddhism thought.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, but it's good. This is a good observation. You say, I can't bear it anymore, so I give up. So then is a really giving up, kind of, you know, I can't bear it anymore. Problem is we're still attached to things that we should give up, which is the causes for the suffering. Yeah, so this is why maybe renunciation we haven't really understood properly. Anybody else? And when you hear the word renunciation, can somebody maybe say the Hebrew word renunciation? Israel.
In Hebrew, it's hitchadshut.
Okay.
Hitchadshut. It's like a snake. You know, a snake sometimes take off his
No.
skin.
לא, זה ויתור.
Huh?
Renunciation זה ויתור.
זה מה?
ויתור.
Renunciation.
Renunciation, yeah.
Okay.
Renunciation.
I can say that for me, it's a breathing well. It's a relief in a way, not being controlled by me wanting to fulfill my needs and self-obsession for my needs. I wish to renounce all this stuff, but I'm far away from it.
Yeah. You see, the far away from it, this is not important. But what we do with the word and what it does to us, this is important. Because if you hear the word renunciation and then you go like, oh, I can't, I'm not allowed to do this and I'm not allowed to do that and I have to give up this is, and we think that renunciation then results in suffering, even more than we already suffer now, then it's not the right word and then you have to find another word, right? So Gareth, I think he always translated it with a sadness, you know, sadness of, for example, the sadness of not being able to live my values, for example, that I renounce the causes, because what we renounce the causes for suffering. We're not kind of, you know, renouncing anything that is pleasurable. And I always use the same example, and for me, it works quite well. I don't know if it will work for you. You see, we're not kind of emergence, okay? So you see, Lama Yeshe also, he said definite emergence, not emergence maybe. You know, emergence like getting out, for sure, I want to get out of here. So I told you yesterday I was an alcoholic, means also the liver kind of suffered a bit, probably my brain cells now at the moment. And at the moment, you know, going worse and worse. So the liver is like, I love fried food. I really do. But it's okay, Valda. Fine. I think, but thank you very much, because Valda, again, is very helpful. So I love fried food. If I eat too much of it, I get terrible headaches because the liver can't take it, okay? So I'm more and more able to renounce fried food, because I more and more understand, thank you very much, this little bit of pleasure to eat that fried stuff is not worth the headache that I have for 2 days after. So that is renunciating the causes for the headache. So yes, giving up the pleasure of eating fried food, because I understand that it's creating something that I don't want to understand, that I don't want to experience. Yeah. Okay. So then that's the first one, renunciation. We need to know that we are giving up something that seems to be desirable for us at the moment, because we don't know anything better. This is the thing, you know, The moment you know something better, it's very easy to give up and to renounce. Just a second, I have to go and turn off the light here because it's kind of blinding. And then close the curtains. The sun is coming out. Okay. So we're giving up something that is, you know, that is creating the suffering. So what we're giving up is the kleshas, the causes for suffering. There's a very nice article somewhere that I read many years ago, which was called by a Theravadan monk, I can't remember by whom, which is called Exchanging Candy for Gold. So we're constantly in the candy phase, you know, trying to fix samsara, trying to fix things outside instead of, and then we're happy when it's a little bit better and we feel a little bit better and then that's it. Instead of like going for the gold, which is the, you know, bringing up the Buddha nature. Okay, is that, yeah?
Yeah, I think just something I want to add, that it also changes with time. For example, for me, the first time I heard renunciation, then was a very negative connotation. And I thought, wow, it's like, I don't know, giving up everything. And when you get into the meaning in a Buddhist context, then now I feel more like Netta said, like it's a relief. Like what I'm giving up is something I'm carrying, like a very, like a weight that I don't really need. So giving this up is more spacious. It's more relaxing. It's like I can breathe. So now that the word for me has changed and it has like a very positive connotation, like you say the word and I smile a little bit. So it changes, but immediately the first connotation is like something negative.
Right. That's very important. Thank you very much, Tomer, to share these things, because when people hear it at the beginning, they go a little bit like, oh, I'm not allowed to have pleasures anymore. Not like that. It's like you're allowed to have all the pleasures you want, but it will only produce pleasure in you if you have the positive karma to have a pleasant feeling. You know, it's not the object. We need to understand that also. But then not to get attached to it. Attachment means you think the pleasant feeling comes from the object and not from your positive karma imprint that is ripening by having contact with the object, right? So this is the view that we have to change, you know, and then also the pleasant feelings that come from sense objects. This is the candy. It's nice, it's pleasant, it's okay, but we could have something much better. We could have constant peace of mind without needing anything, you know. For a sense pleasure, we always need an object. And once the object is finished, the pleasure is also finished. So you can think about your ice cream or your chocolate cake or your walk on the beach or in the mountains or whatever, it doesn't matter. You can think about these things. It doesn't really, the memory is nothing compared to the experience. You need something, you need an object. And the thing is also your level of pleasant feeling that the object, which is the condition for the pleasure to arise, your level of like the intensity of the pleasure, it decreases with time. So we get bored with it, and then we have to find something else and something else and something else. Yeah, this is why also, you know, when we go to a coffee shop, when I hear people sometimes, you know, especially in Israel, when they order, you know, you're 4 people. This is for Kaho because I think she's never been to Israel. You're 4 people, you go to a coffee shop. And so everybody kind of shouts at this waitress, I want my coffee with this kind of milk and not so hot or very hot, lots of foam, not so much foam. Then I say like, come on, how do you want her to remember that? And she goes to the barista and then he has to kind of do this. And then for sure, you know, the more you want your coffee special, the less you're happy because it's almost impossible to kind of fulfill all your wishes the more you are happy with just having a cup of, I tell you, black coffee, it's for me, and then you'll always be satisfied because that's what you wanted, is a small black coffee, and that's it. You know, but if it's all these, this and that and this and that, you should go and work as a waitress at one point in a coffee shop. You'll see how it is with these special, with one soy milk, the other one oat milk, the other one, I don't know, you know, almond milk, and the other one cow milk, and oh, yes, Elisheva.
I can share. So I'm working in a fruit and vegetable market in Tel Aviv, in the port, Namal Tel Aviv, every Friday. So there are everything we have. It's a big place. So I can take whatever I want. And it's really, now it's very expensive. Like I'm taking fruit and vegetables like 400 shekels. Yes, I can take. I also earn a lot of money. No, not a lot, but nice. Yeah. So I'm taking, the greens, the vegetables, the fruit. So then I need to take them from the car to my apartment. And I say, oh, I took too much. And then to put them in the fridge, and I say, oh, I don't have place. And then I need to cook all the week, like with this and prepare. And I have too much fruits, so it's too much sugar. And then I start giving people. And yesterday, for the first time, I had it's in a תהליך, איך אומרים? תהליך, לא משנה. Process, it's a process. But yesterday, it like hit me so, I came home, I work for 12 hours because the owner, his mother died, and I need to be the manager. And I came, oh, צח, מה אתה עושה? Sorry, my son called me. And I said, enough. I'm making a list on Thursday, what I will take, just what I need. It's like less than 50%, I think, less. Right. Because it started to be so heavy on me.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. That's it. This is the experience.
Very good. This is a very good example. It's like, as Edouard was saying, when we start to understand it's getting too much, I want to give it up. But we haven't understood samsara yet as too much, probably. Or just, as Tomer was saying, kind of gradually we start to understand, and gradually we start to be able to say, no, I mean, why I don't need this kind of thing. And then we start to understand. So that's renunciation. We renounce the causes for suffering, which are our kleshas, and we really start to work with them, again, without pushing, without judging, but with wisdom and with compassion, you know, not to follow, not to act when we see that there's anger, there's attachment, there's desire, to wait until it has died down, and then we say something, or then we do something. Yeah? And for this also, again, we need self-awareness. Not to collaborate with our kleshas, with our unhelpful emotions anymore. They will still arise for many, many, many lifetimes, probably, because we have all these imprints from our past negative emotions that have not been resolved. They go down into the subconsciousness, you can call it like this. When they meet an object, they will arise. You can't help it. It's the same way you put a seed in the ground. If then there is moisture and warmth, this seed will ripen. But you have two possibilities. You see the seed ripen as a sprout. You say, oh, this I don't want. You take it out. You're not creating more. You're not following it, right? And you are very happy that you saw it, instead of being shocked that you still have so many kind of negative emotions and self-cherishing coming up. Wow, great, I saw it. By seeing it, I'm not creating more negative imprint. Yeah, we can't go around and saying, like, you know, Elisheva was saying, I think it was on Wednesday or last week, I can't remember, when you said, I don't want to create more imprints of attachment. Well, of course we don't want to, but we do, because, you know, this is what it means. This is what samsara is. suffering creates samsara. Because there is pain, there is suffering, it creates more causes for samsara. This is a bit what it is. So the way out is to recognize it and not to create more seeds so that there's less and less and less and less. And you will have noticed also, like we with my fried food, you know, first I suffered really a lot when I saw I shouldn't eat it because it's no good. Now I almost lost interest. Yeah, almost. I don't know how long it is since I've eaten French fries, quite long time. So it's like you lose, the desire loses the strength. Anger loses the force or the strength if we don't follow every time. Yeah. So then the second aspect is bodhicitta. The first one is renunciation. I want to get out of samsara. Second one is bodhicitta. This is what we're talking about, how to develop it. And then the third one is wisdom. Of course, if we want to attain totally full enlightenment, then we need to realize emptiness. So the structure is a little bit different than from the three principal aspects of the path. But it's, you know, again, it has the same goals. By renunciation first we need to have precious human rebirth so that we can create the causes for liberation. After we have attained liberation, then also we know, and not just for myself, but in order to relieve all sentient beings from there as well. And the way that the prayer is being built up. So first it defines what renunciation is, then it tells us how to develop it, and then it tells us what is the criteria or when can you see whether you have developed it or not, so that you can, you know, you can say, okay, now I have renounced. Okay. So again, you know, it's quite serious. And when we read these things, as Netta was saying, we see, I mean, I should say I see how far away I am from all this, but it doesn't matter. The far away is not important, you know. What is important that I still am on this path and I'm still going there. Maybe I'm quite slow, but I do want, I still going in the right direction. And if we keep going in the right direction, no matter how long it takes, at one point we will get. So again, so he starts with, you know, even a great guru like Lama Tsongkhapa goes, I bow down to my perfect gurus. And then the essential meaning of the victorious one's teachings, the past praised by all the victorious and the victors and their children. The victors are the Buddhas, the children are the Bodhisattvas. The gateway of the fortunate ones desiring liberation. This I shall try to explain as much as I can, he says. So who are the fortunate ones? Do you feel like being fortunate?
Yes.
Yes? Okay, great. Do you feel like being privileged?
Yes.
Good. So that means it brings us a feeling of joy and understanding impermanence and privilege. We think we start to very spontaneously, you know, kind of take whatever we have, which is fortunate and the privilege. We start to take it and use it in a proper way, like we use our precious human rebirth in a proper way. And it was Gachin Rinpoche when he was in, I think it was in Tuval, and he was teaching on the instructions of Tilopa to Naropa. And the text starts by, oh, you Naropa, the fortunate one. So then I was, you know, sitting there and thinking, yeah, you know, Naropa, very fortunate because he has Tilopa, his perfect guru, right next to him all the time, giving him instructions and all in this. And then, you know, again, when you can see that somebody is more than just an ordinary being, that they address this, even though I just only been thinking it. And then Gachin Rinpoche looks at us and he says, do you know what it means, the fortunate one? You know, and I was kind of going, yeah, it means that you have your guru there and, you know, you have the right conditions, blah, blah, and all this. And he says, no, the fortunate one means the one who is able to bear the hardships on the path. I thought, oh, okay. So that means the one who practices, even if the conditions are not totally perfect. So I thought, okay, thank you. So this is it. You might have noticed it when you go directly to teachings of Ajahn Rinpoche, Chadu Rinpoche, Geshe Tashi, even also Loma Zopa Rinpoche. You are going on about something in your mind. There's like 200 other people there. Maybe you have a question, maybe you criticize something, maybe you think about something different. And all of a sudden, Rinpoche starts to talk about this. And you go like, oh, okay. And then what happens to me, I have my hair kind of standing up. And I go like, oh, I better be careful what I think here. Yeah. Like in Kopan also, there's this one where this in the November course, there was one guy, he could sit in perfect full lotus, like for hours almost. And when he listened to the teachings, he was in meditation, totally still, looked like totally focused and all this. And Rinpoche teaches and teaches and teaches. And all of a sudden he says, oh, by the way, in hell, there is no pizza. And nobody understood what he was trying to say. So this guy, when Rinpoche had finished teaching, he said, it's really amazing. When Rinpoche was saying this, I was thinking about pizza instead of listening to the teachings. So there you go. So it's, again, it's in order to install trust, because these people then, Rinpoches or Geshes or somebody that you trust, you will ask them for personal advice. And they might tell you to do something that you not necessarily would have chosen because it is difficult to do. Yeah. So then you need to have trust in these people that they see further than just like ordinary people, so that you will follow that line. Yeah. So this is the fortunate one. So we should feel very, very fortunate that we have just, one thing, we have interest in learning about bodhicitta. And the second one, we have access to bodhicitta. Yeah, like, just hearing these things, that it is possible to happily put other person's well-being and happiness before our own. I mean, this is so amazing. And that we continue to listen and don't say, oh, this is crazy. No, thank you very much. Or if we, at the beginning, maybe we think this, because that's what I thought at the beginning. I said, no, thank you very much. I have enough problems already. So it's like, why would I also take on the problems of others? And then slowly, as Tomer was saying, your understanding of this shifts. This is why you have to hear it again and again and again. Okay. So then first, that is what he says, Lama Tsongkhapa. This time he's really speaking to us. He's not just speaking to himself like Shantideva does. And so he says, those who are not attached to the pleasures of circling in samsara, who strive to make freedom and endowments meaningful, who trust themselves to the path pleasing the victorious ones, you fortunate ones listen with a calm mind. So it's quite a bit harsh, He already says, if you are still very much interested in having a career, a lot of money, good looks, a lot of pleasures and all this, if that is your main focus, don't even listen to what I have to say, because it's just a waste of time and it will make you feel bad. So it's quite clear. Yeah. So those who are not attached to fame, money, comfort, what's the other one? Praise. Okay, and good renown. If you're attached to that, then Buddhism is not for you, basically. That's what he said. Then, so the purpose of generating renunciation without a complete intention, definitely to be free from circling, there is no way to pacify attachment, seeking pleasurable effects in the ocean of circling. As long as we just want to make this life more pleasant, then we will not finish our uncontrolled rebirth again and again and again.
Anila,
Also, yeah?
I'm still with the last point about if you're too much absorbed with the worldly stuff, so don't listen to it. But we need it most when we are like that.
Yeah, but you will, if your interest is only there, you don't like to hear these things. You see, if somebody has at one point also So that means, what does it mean? It doesn't mean you shouldn't listen. It means you have to change your attitude if you want to listen.
Yes, if it's 2% even, it's a start, maybe. It's not black and white. Like
basically what he's saying is like, if you want to listen to me, then look at your motivation for listening to me. The more you are able to see that samsara is not satisfying, the more the text will be beneficial. You know, it's a little bit like this also. The Buddha said, the ones who are too unruly, just let them be. Don't even try. Yeah, so it's like, and this is for us. So this is for us to see, do I have renunciation, or am I just interested in making a better life? So we can, you see, we can adjust our motivation by not having to think, I'm practicing this to have a better life, but to think, I'm practicing this because I want to leave samsara and I want to then attain full enlightenment. Your life will get better anyway. But if you listen to this text only with the intention to have a better life, it's kind of not it doesn't lead very far. So it's good to mention it. That's why he mentioned it, so that we check our motivation. So, but sometimes, you know, when it can be that the Dharma is too strong also. When somebody is very unstable, has very low self-esteem, yes, they do need Dharma teachings, but it's too strong for them. They won't be able to really practice properly when they have, for example, no self-confidence. So then they need to go to a therapist first, who helps them to become a little bit more stable. Because, you know, Dharma can be medicine, but it can also be poison. If you're so neurotic that you always go like, oh, I'm no good, I don't deserve to be happy, I'm a terrible person, I never do anything right. Teachings on Bodhichitta or Lojong, like, you know, mind training, they will totally increase your neurosis and say, yeah, everything is just for other people, nothing good for me, only for the others. Yeah, and you become more and more and more confused. You see what I mean? You see what I'm saying? Yeah. It's not about, you know, he's not saying, oh, you know, this is so, it's only exclusive, it's only for the good ones and for the good students and like this. This is not what he's saying. But what he's saying is to adjust our motivation, because otherwise the text will not be helpful. Quite a few of you practice or you participate in the Wednesday evenings with Shantideva's text. Yeah. Did you never have the feeling, oh, no, this is too much? You're not even wanting to try this, but you say, oh, no, this I'm not going to do. This is too much. Have you never had that feeling? Netta? Yeah.
That it sounds impossible.
Exactly, impossible. Why? Because our motivation is not going far enough.
Or the self-cherishing is afraid of these big changes.
Also, yeah, also. We haven't understood the benefits of enlightenment yet. We're still kind of trying samsara a better place, right? But again, renouncing samsara does not mean you leave your children, you leave your husband, you leave your friends, you leave your house, you give away all your possessions, you go and sit in a cave. That's not renunciation. Because then you'll be sitting in your cave and you don't know what to do there. And then you get even more confused, right? And you create even more negative karma, because then you start to criticize Buddhism and say, oh, look at them, they made me poor, right? So it's not like that. Renouncing samsara is we start to look, we start to observe, we start to understand. Shit, this is not satisfying. Yeah. And still understanding that it is in samsara that we are creating the cause for enlightenment. We need samsara in order to create the causes for enlightenment. So then again, you know, it's not black and white. If you have the capacities to go to a cave and give everything up, like the Buddha did, Don't forget, the Buddha left his wife, he left his 6-year-old son. I mean, come on, we are following the teachings of somebody like this. We keep forgetting, you know, sometimes. But he knew that he would attain enlightenment, so it was worthwhile to leave family and friend. It's a little bit like in ancient time, you know, the dad, because yesterday we talked about protecting, the father is protecting the family. So the father who was protecting the family had to leave to go hunting to bring home food. Yeah, then while he was away, he couldn't protect his family. So while the Buddha was away, while Prince Siddhartha was away, and he was working on his enlightenment, he couldn't look after his wife or his son, but he also knew that they were okay because they were living in the palace. Yeah. So again, it's not a black and white situation where you can say, I do this and I don't do that. And if you have a feeling, I want to leave my family, I want to leave my children, then check your motivation, why you are leaving them. Are you leaving them because they're too much for you to bear? Or are you leaving them because you have the confidence that you will attain enlightenment? Is that clear? Okay. So we adjust. You see, again, you know, I would never give this text to a total beginner who has never heard about the Four Noble Truths. Yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, please.
So I understand that it's okay to hurt your children if it's for the cause of get enlightenment, and not, it means you can hurt someone depending the cause you want to do thing.
Well, I don't like the word hurting your children. What do you mean hurting your children?
If someone leaves his child, he hurts him. Necessarily, I think. Even if when he grow up, he will understand it was for his own good and so on. Mm-hmm. But basically, if you desert your child, you hurt him in the first place.
Yeah. And
so it's okay to hurt him?
Well, again, you know, I can't say it's okay, it's not okay. This is depending on your motivation. What is creating the karma is not so much what the child experiences. What is creating the karma for you when you leave your child is your motivation. This is, again, you know, very difficult. You can't answer this with yes or no. Yes, Edouard.
Hi. This is my answer to Enat. Millions of people are leaving their children all over the world, even today, to go away to try to make a better living for them.
Yeah.
So we have in Israel, we have many people from India, from the Philippines that come to help the elderly, and their motivation is to send money home for their children to go out of poverty. Millions of people have come to Europe to work in plants, in industrial plants, to send money home to help their families. And they're definitely hurting their families when they are leaving, but they know it's in the long run, it's for their good.
Yeah, the motivation is definitely good. The motivation is not, I want to go to Israel to eat falafel and leave my family in the Philippines. That's definitely not the motivation. Yeah. So this is what I mean. It's like, and sometimes we have to, you know. So if you feel that you have the capacity to become a Buddha in this life, yeah, then by all means. But also then, if you look at the Buddha, I mean, he didn't have to send money. It was for a much bigger goal, right? So this is why also yesterday I said, if you're still young and you think that the Buddhist path is really appealing to you, and to want to become maybe a monk or a nun, then don't go into relationships, don't make children, because as Einat is saying, you leave them, even you become a nun or a monk, they will suffer. So then what's the point? And if you already have them, I would say stay home until they can look after themselves. I would say, but you have to know. I don't want to. You see what I mean? Is that clear? But you know, as Einat was asking, is that okay? There's no answer to a question like this. Is it okay? Because it means, is it okay means, you know, somebody is giving permission, saying that it's okay. There is nobody that can give permission, because sometimes these questions come about karma. You know, at one point somebody asked me, what would you do if you see somebody robbing a jewelry store, and you know that the mother is sick and needs an operation, and with the money they will go to pay the operation? Would you call the police or would you not call the police? You know, kind of, is it okay to rob a jewelry store when you know you need the money for an operation? Well, you know about how difficult it is to understand karma. So that karma is definitely mixed. But stealing is stealing. You know, you steal from somebody, and that somebody, you know, it's their possession. So that will create some kind of mixed karma. But you know, my answer was, oh, it's very unlikely. I will have to think about this. You know, it's very unlikely that I see somebody kind of go into a jewelry store and robbing, and I know that they need the money for an operation. It's like, I don't know. Or you know, sometimes they ask also with this, is it okay in that situation? It's your mind who is creating the karma. Somebody asked me, what would you do? You are on an aeroplane and there's a terrorist and you have a gun with you. Would you shoot the person? I said, look, I will never come in such a situation, because I will never have a gun on the aeroplane. I don't need to figure that out. I need to figure out, what do I do with the person that is getting on my nerves? This is what I have to be careful about. You know, when we talk about karma, don't go to situations that you will most probably never be in. Okay. And also with karma, again, you know, we check, or with the whole Buddha Dharma, we check for ourselves. We're not looking at others, what they do. We don't know what the motivation for others is. We will know when we are Buddhas. So that's why we have to become a Buddha. Is that okay, Einat? Like with this, is it okay? Because is it okay? Then it's a question that seems to say, is there somebody who judges whether it's okay or not? You know, is there somebody who kind of throws the karma out, whether then it becomes positive or negative?
Well, that's not exactly what I meant when I said okay. I meant is for karma. I mean, like from the Buddhism side, if you do it for karma, then it's for have karma benefit. Then it's the right way to do it. But I think about the price that this child will pay, or Buddha's child paid.
Well, the price that the Buddha's child paid was he became a monk and he attained liberation.
No, but this is the price that his child paid, was that he was grown up without a dad.
That's what I mean. Rahula became a monk and then attained liberation.
Okay.
So there was suffering, maybe, yes, when his dad left. Who knows? I don't know, you know. And but then, because his dad left and knew how to attain liberation and could teach how to attain liberation, he attained liberation, and not just Rahula. So, because when you look at the story of the Buddha, you know, he saw sickness, old age, and death. And he thought, how come that we are all having to undergo these three things whether we're rich or poor or, intelligent or not intelligent, whatever. And he left home in order to find the answer, after having practiced many, 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 many lifetimes before Bodhichitta. Okay? So Prince Siddhartha was a very, very special being to do that. Yeah? Is that not? Is it a bit more clear or still not? Or
yes, it's clearer now.
mm-hmm. Yeah, right. So
May I say something?
It's like also when you see it's very difficult, this kind of this topic, because for example, when you see, especially for Israelis, when they see the movie The Unmistaken Child, I don't know how many of you have seen it. Yeah, of course, Kaho has seen it, with Geshe Tenzin Zopa, and when they found the reincarnation of Geshe Lama Konchok, there's a movie, there's a documentary about this, right? So the scene where this little boy, Geshe Tenzin Zopa, is holding him, and the parents are leaving, and they leave the child in the monastery. What does that scene do to you? You go like, this is cruel, this is inhumane. How can they do something like this, isn't it? But that's the Tibetan system. If you have a son who is a Rinpoche, then it is still being practiced and it's still being done that this son is going to be raised by monks. And the result of it is not always good, by the way. Again, so we can be totally open about this and also say that, as Edouard was saying yesterday, we shouldn't idealize. Sometimes these systems are not so great. There are beautiful results of that also. Like, what's his name? Punsok Rinpoche. I think by now he must be in 13 or 14. And he's a beautiful being, like he suffered when his parents left. But then he's also Geshe Tenzin Zopa, they're very loving with each other. And Geshe-la was always with him when he still needed him. It's only after that he started to leave on teaching tours. And Punsok Rinpoche has become a very beautiful being. So again, it's not for us to judge really, but we are very quickly at judging and saying, how can they do this? And there's another movie where from Ladakh, they bring children who wouldn't get any school education in Ladakh. They bring them over these high passes. I don't know if you saw that movie. It's another documentary. Over these high passes, these little kids, 3, 4 years old. It's a very dangerous journey. And they bring them to Dharamsala to go to school there so that they can have a schooling. The motivation of the parents is not to give the children away. The motivation of the parents is to give the children an education, but it's very, very, it hurts when you see these kids, having to cross this pass and then being left in Dharamsala. Dina, you wanted to say something. Oh, what I can add, also in Israel, at the beginning of Israel, in the kibbutz, you had these children houses, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes.
We used to.
Yes.
You don't need them anymore, but it was maybe needed in order for Israel to survive. You think no? Okay.
No, it was on an idealistic base, and it's but most researchers, psychological and sociological researchers, it
damages.
It was a bad idea after all.
It was
quite a bad idea.
Okay, my brother and me, we were left alone at home in a very beautiful house with a swimming pool and everything, with enough money to look after ourselves. Was it damaging to me? I don't think so. Again, we can't generalize like that. I think it's what you make of it. I could say, oh, this is why I was always full of fear. Oh, this is why I became an alcoholic. or and keep blaming my parents. But then what's the point? So I see the good stuff of it, the good side of it. I became very quickly very independent. I think we're going in a direction which might not be so helpful, but...
But you were lucky. Not everybody is so lucky.
No, I think I was lucky. I was fortunate enough to be able to look at it in a different way, maybe. You know, I was fortunate enough to get out of alcoholism. This is one thing. It was bloody difficult, but I was very fortunate that it was the right moment maybe to do it. And I'm convinced, even though I wasn't a Buddhist, I am convinced I had the help of the Buddha. I'm convinced now when I look back, you know, because everything, even though it was so difficult, but everything kind of fell into place. Yeah. So I'm not saying it's not bad. I'm not saying
you had to suffer in order to get to
I'm not saying people should learn how to deal with this. I'm not saying that. Please don't. But also don't generalize, okay? And it's not being done anymore, so that's okay.
But sometimes you suffer. You can't say for a good cause, but you suffer, and out of this suffering, some realization is coming out, and then if you are fortunate to pay attention to it, you can change your life.
Exactly. Or you can go down even further. You know, this is what samsara is, what you make of it. And it's, when you say, Dina, when you say fortunate, it's a good word, because in Buddhist terms, one would say you need to have created the karma to be able to get out of it. Or you need to have created the karma to attain, to get the help, and to be able to accept the help. Like Dina was saying yesterday, that she wanted to help, but then they didn't let her help. So, you know, what happens to us now is depending on so many conditions. But when we have methods and means how to deal with the situation, like psychology is giving us, the Buddha Dharma is giving us, other spiritual practices are giving us, all we have to do is to choose which way of thinking is beneficial or not. Yeah? And then it's like Dina's saying, very often we can learn a lot from our mistakes, but also from the suffering, it can also, when we don't have a view, this is important, when we don't have a view that there is some benefit to the suffering, then we just become aggressive, either towards ourselves, we become depressed, or towards others that we blame. Is that more or less clear? Yes. So I'm not saying it's good to leave your family. I'm also not saying it's not good to leave your family. Kind of summing it up, this whole discussion here. Okay. So we continue with the principal aspects of the path. So without a complete intention, definitely to be free from circling, there is no way to pacify attachment, seeking pleasurable effects in the ocean of circling. Also, by craving for cyclic existence, embodied beings are continuously bound. Therefore, at the very beginning, seek renunciation. At the very beginning of your Buddhist path, you know, and he doesn't say be renounced. He says seek, meaning work at it. Okay? Then freedom and endowments are difficult to find, and life has no time to spare. By gaining familiarity with this, attraction to the appearances of this life is reversed. By thinking over and over again that actions and their effects are unbetraying, and repeatedly contemplating the miseries of cyclic existence, attraction to the appearances of future lives is reversed. So first we see, you know, first we're not spending all our resources, all our energy, and all our thoughts or work or whatever, we're not spending it on worldly pleasures, meaning, you know, fame, comfort, gain, and praise. When the opposite happens, we see it, as Dina was saying, what can I learn from this? Yeah? So whatever happens in our life, of course, we need to have a more or less okay life. So this is the first teaching of the Buddha. when he started teaching about the Four Noble Truths, the first paragraph of that sutra, I don't know if anybody, if you know it, is he's telling the people who are listening, just having a life that is only hedonistic, meaning, you know, all your resources and your interest and your energy goes into making your life more pleasurable. That is ignoble and useless. That's what he says. But then he also says, but making your life too hard and too difficult, and not eating and not having shelter when you need shelter, not taking medicine when you are sick, that is also ignoble and useless. So he's teaching the middle way, right? Having a comfortable life so that you can practice. That's what he's saying. Before he starts teaching on the Four Noble Truths. So in my eyes, you know, very skillful. So try not to jump to extremes and try not to see things as black and white when you listen to what Buddhism has to say. This is why the 3 steps, you know, listen to what it has to say, then think about it. What does that mean for me in my life situation? Is it useful? Is it not useful? When you find it as useful, then you start to meditate on it. You start to reflect on it. When you don't find it useful, you don't have to do this. You don't have to, you know, it's not commandments. The Buddhism, what the Buddha says, the Buddha Dharma, is not some kind of divine obligation that you have to do, even if you're a Buddhist. Are we clear on this? Sometimes there's this, I feel that sometimes there's a little bit this misunderstanding. You don't have to agree with what the Buddha says. It's absolutely fine. You only take what you find useful. The rest, you leave. But when there's something you find not useful, it's really good to discuss it with somebody that you trust and somebody maybe that is a bit more experienced than you, or with somebody that has a different opinion, somebody who finds it useful. Because we have a tendency only to go and discuss these things with people who have the same opinion that I have, because then it affirms my opinion. And then when you find this is really not useful, then, you know, even after a discussion, then that's fine. Then you leave it. It's no problem. Okay. And then we attract, you know, so here is like until here, you can see maybe my arrow. Until here is the lower scope, where we just want to have good rebirth every time. So this is why we take care of our karma. Then here he goes already to the middle, to the middle scope, that we also don't want to have, you know, we're not attracted to future good lives. We only want to have a good life in order to be able to practice. And you see, then when one hears this, oh, I only want to have a good life in order to be able to practice, you think you'll become a terribly boring person, isn't it? I mean, does the Dalai Lama to you seem as a boring person? Somebody who is bored and only being interested in kind of getting awakened and enlightening and all this, he's not boring. Yeah, so it's not because we're not, because he doesn't know maybe computers and movies and, you know, the cultures of all the other countries and all this. You think he's boring? Some people might think he's boring, as Edouard was saying yesterday with, you know, with Mathieu Ricard, when these managers said, okay, now let's talk about some serious stuff. Yeah. So this is for us to see. Then, even if renunciation has not been developed, if it is not possessed by the mind of enlightenment, it does not become the cause of perfect bliss, of unsurpassed enlightenment. So if you have, now we forgot about this one. When, by having trained in that way, there is no rising, even for a second, of attraction to the perfections of cyclic existence, and all day and night the intention seeking liberation arises, then the thought of renunciation has been generated. A little bit like being in Afghanistan at the moment, and you're not belonging to the Taliban. Day and night, you think, how can I get out of here? You still sleep. But when you fall asleep, you are still, the intention of finding a way to get out is still there. When you wake up, the thought of how to get out is still there. Not obsessively. You still cook, you still eat, you're still living there. If you're working, you still go to work. But in the background, this whole thing, I want to get out of here, is running. Yeah, so don't go to the extreme thinking that you have to give up everything now. You still continue in a normal life, but in the background, the motivation is, but I want to get out of here. I want to get out of it. I want to get out. Clear? With still having a life with family and children and grandchildren?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay, thank you. Then, so the next point is bodhicitta. So what is bodhicitta? Then even if renunciation has been developed, if it is not possessed by the mind of enlightenment, meaning being liberated myself is not good enough, I have to attain full awakening, it does not become the cause of the perfect bliss of unsurpassed enlightenment. Therefore, the wise generate the supreme mind of enlightenment. So don't worry, as a Buddha, you will have no more suffering. Like you will have maybe suffering, a body or whatever, because you will manifest as a human being, but you will not experience it as suffering. You will experience it as pain. So the same way we experience pain after an operation, it is painful, but it's no suffering, because we know it's healing. And we know that kind of, the abscess or whatever it is out. Okay? So that's why being a Buddha is a blissful state. Seems attractive, yes or no? If we want to continue to suffer, that's okay. It's like everybody has a right to do that. Okay, then, so how to generate the mind of enlightenment? Swept away by the current of the four powerful rivers, tied by the tight bonds of karma, so hard to undo, caught in the iron net of self-grasping, completely enveloped by the total darkness of ignorance, endlessly reborn in cyclic existence, ceaselessly tormented by the three sufferings, thinking that mothers are in such condition generate the supreme mind of enlightenment. It's a very drastic image. So what he's describing here, I tell you, is worse than Afghanistan. Because, again, in Afghanistan, even you have to stay there. At one point you die. Then you might be reborn in another place. But if we're not getting out of samsara, we will not find liberation and enlightenment through coincidence. We have to create it ourselves. We have to get out of samsara ourselves. So once we have this wish for ourselves, and it's in order to have bodhicitta, you need to have the wish for you to be free from suffering, because otherwise it's ridiculous to think that you want to liberate all sentient beings from suffering and you don't want to get out of samsara. It's ridiculous. Doesn't make sense. Okay, so this is a very, very powerful image here. So swept away by the current of the four powerful rivers. Okay, so it's birth, old age, sickness, and death. Everybody has to experience that. It's so powerful, we cannot reverse it. We can't say, I'm coming into samsara with the samsaric mind. I don't want these four sufferings. And then it gives us the causes why we are in those rivers. So try to have an image, okay? So your mother, or maybe better your grandma, is in this river. Like, let's say the four powerful rivers have come together and your grandma is in there, or your mother, tied by the tight bonds of karma. Okay, so her hands are tied. She tries to swim, but she can't swim because she doesn't have the karma to swim. She hasn't created the causes to swim because her hands are kind of bound by karma. So hard to undo. Caught in the iron net of self-grasping. So not only are her hands caught like this, she is also in an iron net or in an iron cage of self-grasping, completely enveloped by the total darkness of ignorance. On top of it is night. So do you think you could save your mom out of that river if you are not already outside? No. Okay, this is why Bodhichitta, we have to have the wish. I am also at the moment in these four great rivers. I am also tied by karma. I am also in the iron net of self-grasping, and I'm also enshrouded by the darkness of ignorance of wrong views. Therefore, I might have the wish to save my mom, but I need to get out first. Okay? So it's a very, very powerful verse, that one. So then when do we have generated bodhicitta? So first here is, yes, I have bodhicitta. Now here's really, I want to help my mom out of this river here. Yeah, I need to attain enlightenment in order to be able to do that. So first is the wish to save my mother or whoever, you know, somebody that you really love. Okay. So first is the wish to help the loved one. Next is the understanding, if I'm also in that situation, I cannot help, then therefore I need to attain enlightenment. Yeah? So it's not, bodhicitta is not kind of, oh, I want to be happy and then I will help all others. It's the other way around, right? I want to help all others and then that's why I have to become a Buddha. When have we generated the mind of enlightenment? In short, if like the mother whose cherished son has fallen into a pit of fire and who experiences even 1 second of his suffering as an unbearable eternity. Now again, like yesterday we exchanged it, right? To have the compassion is better to feel, to see as the parent, to see the child, and Shantideva. And so Tsongkhapa is doing the same thing here, you know. The suffering of the mother who sees the son who has fallen into a fire. And she wants to do something, you know. Your reflection on the suffering of all mother sentient beings has made it impossible for you to bear their suffering for even 1 second. And the wish seeking enlightenment for their sake arises without effort, then you have realized the supreme precious mind of enlightenment. The third aspect I leave to Geshe-ma for you to explain, okay, because we're doing relative bodhicitta. Okay, effortlessly. Effortlessly means the same way. I think if you would be in Afghanistan at the moment and you would have been, you know, working with the Americans, and you know, if the Taliban finds me, you know, the wish to get out of Afghanistan for you and for your family would be effortless. This is what I mean. This is what effortless means, spontaneous. Lama Zopa Rinpoche, he uses kind of an example, much easier and less dramatic. Imagine being locked into a toilet. You know, you go to a public toilet and you want to get out, you can't get out. Would you have an effortless wish to get out of the toilet? Would that wish be effortless, spontaneous, natural? Yes or no? Yes, of course. You know, you wouldn't spend time looking around thinking, oh, I wonder how I can make this toilet a bit nicer here, because who knows if you know, our doubt about enlightenment, who knows if I ever will get out of here. So, you know, oh, there's a spray, so it smells a bit bad. So maybe I can spray a little bit. Oh, it's not so bad anymore. And, you know, this is what we're doing with samsara. All our effort very often goes in there, or like say 95% goes into making samsara better. 5% goes into dharma. If you feel that that's not true for you, be very happy about it. Okay. For me, it's probably not true because I'm, you know, I'm supposed to, I'm a nun. That's very helpful. if you are a nun, then you have to do these. You have to behave properly also. So this is what it means, the effortless wish to get out of samsara for the benefit of sentient beings, when you see all sentient beings as your mother, and then it spontaneously arises. Okay, is that more or less clear? When you see whether you have generated bodhicitta or not. So we see, as Netta says, we're not there yet, but we continue. And but now we make a break, maybe half an hour. So we meet again at, in your place is what? 10:25? Yeah, in your place is 10:25. We meet
11:25.
11:25. Oh yeah, here is, sorry, 11:25. We meet again after half an hour, and then we look at the second method, exchanging oneself for others, which is from Shantideva. The method we looked at yesterday is from Asanga, the 6 causes 1 effect method, and then after the break we look at exchanging self for others, which seems to make, to me, more sense in a way. It's, for me, it's more approachable than this all beings have been my mother, in a way. And it seems to be more working in a better way for Westerners. And also one can combine the 2 methods. How one does that, we also look at. Great. Okay.
Anila, I want to say 1 second, you don't have, you can leave just technical stuff.
Okay.
Okay. ממש שניונת, בעצם הקורסים האלה, גם מי שלא היה בקורס של אתמול, אז באתר של ידידי הדרמה, על האייקון של היוטיוב, אז אפשר לראות את השיעורים גם מאתמול. אני שוב באמת, כל מה שקשור, כל הפעילויות של ידידי הדרמה, הם בהתנדבות ובתרומות, על בסיס של תרומות, וגם נאמר לי ככה שאנילה עומדת לבוא לארץ, בסוף נובמבר כנראה, ואז בעצם אני אשים פה את הלינק, אפשר דרך האתר להיכנס, בסוף הפעילות יש את הדרך לתרום, אני אשים פה לינק בצ'אט, ושצריך ללחוץ על שיפט כדי לפתוח אותו, וזהו, ובאמת כמו שאתם רואים, זה באמת כמו, זה משהו אינטראקטיבי עם דיון, אז אם אפשר באמת לפתוח מצלמות, מישהו יכול. זהו, אז הפסקה נעימה.
תודה רבה.
If you want to chat with each other, just do, that's fine. You just behave as if, go get your cup of tea, come back, look who is still on. You want to talk to somebody, you just go, hello, who wants to talk to me? And then we do as if we're having a break in Nesamim, or in Tuval, or in Yechiam. Farmonash. Farmonash is my favorite place, I tell you. Really like that. Okay. So enjoy your break, and as I said, if you want to chat or discuss, what we just did now, you can discuss it. That's fine.
Thank you.